guys, and welcome back to another Tweaker Man video. So this is the video on veneering these speaker cabinets. I've already done one and I've started the other. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do the rest of it, and also mitre in the corners here. You see that there? Get it right. All the corners are mitered in nicely to make it look like the cabinets are mitered, even though they're not. So So first of all, what we want to do is, we know that our manufactured board, our plywood, is 18mm. Right, so what we want to do is we're going to cut some slivers to go onto here. So we want to measure this around about 20mm. Just want to have a little bit over so we can sand off afterwards. Okay, 120 there. We'll cut that. 40. I'm going to measure 2 lines and that. And so I see some people cut this with a blade, which is fine if you want to do it. But if you want to, you can cut this with a very sharp pair of scissors, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Works really well, and I'll show you how to do the mitres. Now this is the peel and stick veneer, which is really good. So we've got one piece there, and I've got another piece here. I want a nice straight edge there, which is this one here, I think. Let's have a look. Is that the straight edge? Yeah, that's it. Right, so we need 2 bits of this as well. For 20mm wide as well. Now this peel and stick is marvellous stuff actually, but what I find is you really need to seal up the wood that you're going to be gluing it onto, because if the plywood's extremely dry and dusty, this veneer I should say, is not going to stick as well. So what you need to do is to make sure you seal it up. So what I've done is I've sealed up the surface of it with some of my heat resistant powder polish, just because it gives it the adhesive on the back of this. It gives it time to stick better than it does just a dry wood. So what we do, we get our scissors here and we just cut along that line there nice and neatly. See, like this cuts really well. They've got to have sharp scissors. You can't do it with anything else. It's got to be really sharp scissors, and these are seriously sharp. So I'm going to go along here with that, and we'll be sanding this back after. So these are, that's 2 bits there, so it's slightly bigger. They'll be for those end ones. And now I'm going to show you a little trick on how to do the mitres on this. So you'll need a sliding bevel really, which I'll show you in a second, to do this. So I'm going to show you how to polish these in this video. This is veneering and polishing these speaker cabinets. Now I already got one comment on the video saying, have I not read the BBC white paper on the LS35As? And I had to respond by saying that these are not BBC LS35As, as I explained in my first video. Some people just don't listen. These are a different speaker, although very, very loosely based on the LS35A. And the reason for it is this speaker has got no port in it, you see. There's no port there, no base port. So that's one of the characteristics of the LS35A, and also the speakers, the drivers and the tweeters that go in here are the mid-range woofer is very similar to the LS35A, but the scan speak tweeter is different, and I've matched up the two for this project. So anyway, I won't waffle on anymore. Let's get this going. So this is a sliding bevel square. So we've got a 45-degree angle there. Right, so what we need to do now is you'll need a blade for this. I can kick the thing up. So this is just a Stanley blade. It goes in a knife there, but we won't worry about that. So what we want to do is offer the veneer up to here. And because this has got a peelable back, we want to just score the peelable back there and here, like so. And then we want to just take up the middle section of it, like so there. There we go. Peel that back nicely. Right, the whole thing's come off of that now on that end, so I want to stick that back onto there. Right, okay, that's it. Right, okay. So now what we want to do is offer this up to the cabinet, and we want to line it up neatly and push this down onto the surface. It's helpful if it just sticks over very slightly over that edge, because we want to sand it back. Now what we do is I'm just using a flat piece of MDF there, and you really want to give it some power onto there. Okay, now I've sealed this up before, but I'll show you how to do that anyway. We're just using a bit of this heat resistant special powder polish. I'm just going to wipe it along the edge there and leave it to dry. So this is the second coat it's had now. Take it under there. There we go. So so that's that. So now we've got that piece on there. Now we want to turn it round to this side, and we want to get this piece on again. We've got to just offer the veneer up to it, score that across there again, and then we're going to remove the centre part of it again, and then pull it back. It's seriously warm again today here in Leighton Buzzard. About 30. It's about 36 in this studio at the moment. So we just pull that back like so there. Pull that off, and you will see the reason why I've left those end pieces on. So we want to just offer that up again and get it just over the edge very slightly, just so we can sand it back. There you go, that's perfect. Right, now this heat resistant special powder polish, it dries really fast, especially in this heat, because it's alcohol based. So give it some really good rubbing down there. And we need to do the same with this as well. These two end pieces here, just score that across there, and this one here. Now for anybody that don't know how to do veneering, this type of veneer, this peel and stick, is just fabulous. Now if you was doing a tabletop, I'd be a bit dubious about using this. On speakers it's okay, but if you're on a surface where you could get some sort of heat on there, so oh, I need to have taken the wrong bit off there in my haste talking. Right, let's just put those bits back on the ends there so they don't. I want to be able to peel those off after. That's that. It's the heat today. It's really getting to me today. Right, okay, so we've got that on there. So now we just want to turn that over again, and we want to get that onto the edge there nice and neatly. Just over very slightly again. There we go. Again, we need to that good. And down, and we come round to this side and do the same. This time I'm going to remove the middle opposed to the two heads. There we go, that's one. And what I need to do is to wipe myself. I've got so much sweat coming off me today. Oh. Right. So if there's any of you climate change deniers out there, I think you can perfectly say that this heat is due to that somehow. It's got to be. Right, so let's put this onto here. Pick that up, see. You've got to be careful, you've got to get it right. It is sticky, it's really sticky, this stuff. So it should stay down really well. It should do, it should do. This is the first time I've used this. Usually what I do is, because I do a lot of veneering, but I usually use either an animal glue, which is a Scotch glue, which is a pearl glue, or I use PVA to glue it down with, because I don't need anything coming back. But this is interesting. So, or I do false grain, because that's perfect. Let's just put this piece down here. So what I'll do is I'll show you now. I'm just going to use these scissors just to trim these bits up there and go along the edge there. Let's trim that up. And the reason why we put the front and the back on first is because we want the side veneer to overlap it. Now these are going to look the business, and these are going to sound the business once they're done. And yes, they aren't an LS358. And I don't know how many times I can keep saying that. Do you know what I should have done? Is just done a bit of clickbait like some people do, and it would have got me loads of views. I could have wrote on there on the title, these are LS358s, and just got a load of abuse for it. But anyway, so we'll just go along here like this, and we can just trim off the edges with these scissors. Now these, as I have to say this over and over again, these have got to be extremely sharp scissors. You can't use anything that's blunt, it won't cut the veneer very well. And there we go, trip that there. And the same with this here. And then we're going to sand this back after, before we cut the corners in, because we need to make sure we get our mitre right. Right, so now we've got some sandpaper here, just a bit of old 80 grit. Okay, so that one there, that still needs a little bit more off of there, because that's sticking over the edge a bit. And okay. Right, so we're going to get our 80 grit now. You can see that there on a block. Okay, and now we're just going to sand this back very gentle there. If we want this, we want the mitres to be spot on. There we go, that's one. And what I'm going to do after we've done the front is I'm just going to show you how to veneer one of the sides, and then I'm going to crack on and get it done, and then we'll start the polishing process. And what I've done is I've matched up the veneer all the way through, apart from the underneath. So I'm not worried about the underneath, because it meant, being able to match the veneer on the underneath, it meant I needed to buy two lengths of the veneer, which would have come out to £50 opposed to 25. And as I don't see the underneath, I thought to myself, there's no point. Right. You notice I'm pushing my thumb down on these end bits, because they move about a bit because they're not glued on yet. And I don't want anything to crack or split on there. Right, okay, so I've sanded the edges down all around, and so we're left with that like that. Okay, both bits are not stuck down. So this is the part where we need a blade. It needs to be a sharp blade. I don't use scissors for this, so I'm just going to give this a bit of a blast on the... So I've got that nice and sharp now. So what we do is we get our bevel, you see, and we hold it right into the corner there. Okay, we want a perfect mitre on there. So I hold it into the corner and then we just score through both layers slowly. Don't try to rush it too much. There's nothing worse than rushing anything, because all it does is the job becomes extremely poor. So that one there should pop out. And to me that looks like that must have gone through both layers there. So I'll show you how to do one of these corners and then I shall crack on with the rest of them. So now we've got to pop that up there and pull that piece out there. We can get it out slowly. Right, okay, so it's still stuck there very slightly on that edge. That's it. Right, okay, so we've pulled that out now. So now what we've got to do is to get that piece of plastic film on the back out now, without trying to snap the veneer. So there we go, that's it. It's coming out slowly. That's one piece. I want to get this side out now. Just take your time on it. It just there we go. Right, so then we want to push those two together. Get that down there. We want to give it a really nice rubbing down, nice and flat there. And we just want to go along the edge here with this piece of 80 grit, just to sand that in nice and neat. And then we've got some 240 here, just to go over the join a bit. We're going to give it a really good old sand up first and work our way right the way down to 1000 grit, so we get a super smooth finish before we start polishing. So there we go. There's a perfect mitre there. So now I'm going to crack on with these ones and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to do the sides. So you can see now that I've mitred all the corners in there nice and neatly, and I've sanded them all up, and that's come up really nice, and that's the back. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the sides. So what we're going to be doing is we want to get the neat edge on the front if we can. Right, so we're going to be laying this down. So where's the front and the top? That's the bottom, this is the top. What we're doing here, this way round, like so. Right, so what we want to do is we want to just put that around about there, and I'm just going to mark it with a pencil. Okay, I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to bring it over slightly bigger because we want to be able to sand back. And what we want to do is match the grain as it goes through. So it'll be sort of, there'll be a gap of a couple of mil or a mil on each, but it still goes together really well. You won't notice that. Right, okay, so same with that there again. Get that to the front, make sure the veneer is going to be nice and straight as I go. And then we'll just cut this veneer across here again with these scissors. Right, okay, so we're going to cut this to there. See how easy this is to cut with scissors. And this peel and stick, the company that supplied the adhesive for the back are 3M. So I don't know if you know 3M. They do all sorts of sandpapers and all sorts of stuff. So they are a quality company. So you will know that the veneer will stay there on a pair of speakers. Now, so if you was using this veneer in a car, this wouldn't be worth it. The heat in there would just bubble this up straight away. But inside a house, especially here in the UK, where most of the time it's freezing cold, apart from at the moment, because we've got a balmy weather system going on. So let's just turn these over here like this, and we're just going to put on here, on the veneer, 1, 1, and then 2 and 2. So we know that, that's the way that the veneer is going to go on there. So what we want to do first is we want to put one of the sides on first here. So let's put these over to one side again, and what I need to do is to put a coat of sealer. Although I've sealed this up already, I just want to put a coat of sealer on here again, because it just helps the glue adhere to the surface. Because this is not wood glue that's on the back of that, it's some sort of contact adhesive, and contact adhesive won't absorb into the grain of wood. There's the veneer gone on the floor there. So I'm going to give this, so effectively what it would do is, if it's a dry surface on there, it's not going to stick to it as well. So you could put another layer of contact adhesive underneath it, but if you do this, what I've done here, you could put a piece of any varnish, or water-based varnish, but it's better with this. This is good stuff. So now let's pick this up now. Turn this over so we're getting the right way. So this is 1, and that's 1, and this is right. So we want to put the neater edge towards the front, because we're going to sand the back edge down. We always make sure that we put it over fractions still over the front, just to sand it back very gentle. So now we've got the 1, we want to get that 1 up as close to the top as possible, but we still need to stick it over very gently. As I say, take your time on this, there's no rush. Right, so that needs to go up. You've got to get this. Lay it down gently like that first. See that? It's over the front edge very slightly. And then we just want to smooth it out. Then we get our piece of India. If you can use a roller, but this is better, because you're really putting loads of pressure onto it, because that's what it needs to do. Now, if you had a veneer press, you could press this with some PVA underneath it, and you'd find it would press lovely. But this actually is a very good product, and this is the first time I've used this. I've always used, if I wanted to be quick, I'd use some contact adhesive like Evo Stick, and that would be a very good thing to use. But I've used it on a table once. So when I was an apprentice, I made a table for my parents for Christmas one year, and I veneered it with a really nice U veneer, and I used some crossbanding and everything. This was back in the 80s, and it lasted a while, but then it started to bubble in areas because it's getting use. But with speakers, they're just going to sit there and get no use as such like that. Right, so we've got that to there. So that front edge, we don't want to cut that with the scissors. We just want to trim some of these bits off of the edges there, because we're going to sand back again with the sandpaper in a minute. You could router this off, but the problem is because this is very thin and you've got a glue on the edge there, the router, it doesn't really work that well. I've seen some people trying to router it, but anyway, so as we come up here, we just want to trim that along there gently. We're going to sand back again. Try not to get an angle on it. You want it dead square, the veneer, as you cut it. Right, okay. So we need to find now a bit of sandpaper there again. So we want to bring that round here again and just gently sand that in. You'll find, I'll show you what to do in a minute, but you'll find you'll get bits of the adhesive on the edge there as well, and I'll show you how to remove that. See, now if I'd have glued this and clamped all this up, I'd have had to have done one side a day. It would have took absolutely ages. So this is where this stuff is very good. Right, so now that's nearly flushed out. So what you will find is you can see a very faint glue line along there where that glue is. Right. So all you do is you just get a blade and just run the blade along there. Take away that glue line. Okay. Right, okay, and then you can sand that in again with some 240. Okay, that's nice and smooth now. And if there is any glue there still, we can cover that up in the polishing stage. So when you come to these corners, you just want to tickle it in on the corner a bit there, because you don't want to chip out any veneer on the edge there. There we go. Right to the front. That's my load of jazz dog out there barking, bugger. And now he's got another little mate now that's moved in as well. The wife decided to buy herself a handbag dog. It's like it's one of these crossbreeds that everybody's getting these days and paying stupid money for. Well, the Kennel Club of Great Britain won't recognise it as a breed, even though some people are spending £3,000 on some of these dogs. Right. That's my whinge for the day, by the way. Got to get your own back. Right, so that one there is nice and sanded down there on the edge there. Have a little bit for good luck. Round to this side, much the same again. That there could almost do with another bit of... It's not going to come off very easy that way, so let's go this way and see if we can... it's not going to happen there, it's too fine there. So... Again, what I always do is I'll keep my finger on the edge there, just in case it's just pushing against it, just so the veneer don't break away on the edge, because that's the last thing you need. There we go. So this is a bit time consuming still, but you know, you can get a really nice job going on it. There we go, that's nicely done. Now all we've got to do now is this top one now. So we want to just get the oh, there it is there, the block there, and just don't go over the edge and break the edge, just run it along the edge, because you want to make sure this goes down really nice and firm along the edge there. And then we can just gently sand back again. Bearing in mind this veneer is quite thin overall, it's not even a millimetre thick, I don't think. So most of the veneer work I do on old antique stuff and that is really thick, because in them days they couldn't cut veneer like they did now, like they do now. Right, now you can see there's some glue on the edge there still again now. So what I want to do is just grab this and just that's it, it's coming off lovely. That's it, we get that glue off of there and just give that another little tickle back there. You want to make sure you get everything flush, because what will happen if it's not flush, over a period of years, if there's a bit of veneer hanging over by even a ½ mil or even a quarter of a mil, it may have the tendency to start pulling away at some stage. Right, so now you can just take this is excellent sandpaper. This is, it's got a foam back, so it bends and moulds. There we go. Gives it a nice little rounded edge to it as well there. So there we go. That's one side on there. Perfect. It's come out lovely. So what I'm going to do is crack on and do the rest of the cabinet. Then I'll be back and we'll start the polishing process. So one thing I failed to say actually is I need to show you how to do this bit here, which is the top section, because this is where we want to line up the grain on the edge. You may not be able to see this on the video, but I thought I'd just better do this quick, otherwise it's good to learn these things. Now this is seriously sticky, this glue. It's just surprised me how sticky it is. So that's number 2. So what we've got to do is turn that round to number 1 there, and there's 2 bits of grain there, if you can see them there. That lines up perfectly there. Okay, so we need to get that stuck down there, but we want to overhang it very slightly. We want to sand it back as well. You've got to take your time on it, don't rush it. Get it right, just lay that down on the surface there like that. Make sure that that's overhanging very slightly there and very slightly there. There we go, look at that. The grain, you can see the grain, it just runs straight up there and up there. So that's perfect. Now you could attempt to try to bend this stuff like this, but you'll find it will just break like that as you try it. You could heat it and do it probably, but there's no point. You might as well just cut it, get it on like that, and then we can do the best. So I will be back once I've veneered this now. So all the veneer's done. All we're going to be doing now is giving it a light sound back by hand with some 240. So this is quite smooth, this veneer. So we can go in circles to start with, just to give it a nice feel, and then we're going to start putting some polish on the surface of it. Just some preliminary coats. So with this sort of polish, you don't have sealers, all you use is that polish on its own. Now this is a great polish to do work like this. It's not a traditional French polish, it's a polish where it's got resins dissolved in alcohol along with a little bit of shellac, but it makes it hard wearing and heat resistant. And that's what we want really. So I use that on people's tables. I have been getting a little bit environmental friendly lately. I've been using quite a lot of water-based lacquers. I would never use those on tabletops, so only on chairs where the wear factor isn't as bad. Because the problem is, of course, is you don't want to finish. You don't want somebody to come back to you in a year or so's time to say the finish has worn off. Now I did use a water-based lacquer on a table once and it didn't really last that long, so even though it says it's diamond hard, or I mean there is one which is a polyurethane, a 2-pack polyurethane. Now that does work really well, but you have to mix a cross-linker with the lacquer. And what happens is you only have a short period of time to get the lacquer onto the surface. It has a working time of about 10 minutes, I think, before it goes off. And if it goes off, all that will happen is you'll have a crazy paving effect on the surface. So I've done that side. Did I do that side, mate? Rub off that pencil mark I had on there. Now, a lot of these companies who make speakers, they either have their in-house woodwork department, or they sub the work out to another company, like a joinery firm or a cabinet making firm, to make speaker cabinets for them. So we want a really nice smooth finish on this. Now, I know some of you out there already making speakers, so Stuart, he makes Proax speakers. Now, I can't remember the name of his channel again now off the top of my head, but he's made some very nice speakers. What I'll do is I'll find his channel and put a link to it underneath, so you can see what the quality of the speakers he's been building, and they're really nice, and he's done very well there. And it's amazing if you can copy a design of someone else's, you can build a really expensive speaker for a hell of a lot of money cheaper than what it costs you to buy them new. It's like these would be easily over 2,000 to build a set that I'm building here, and these are only small speakers. As soon as you start getting into floor standers, that's when the prices really go up. More drivers, and some of the top stuff is highly expensive, as you know. So, but there we go. So that's all sanded there, and we just need to sand the top off, the front down again, and then I'm going to start finishing the sanding up with some 1000 grit. I want to work up. I'm going to use some 600, and then some 800, and then some 1000, but I won't show you that. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can work that out yourself. Just give this edge in here a light sanding along here. So on the bottom and on the back of this cabinet, not the other one, this one, I'd run out of the veneer was smaller, so I had to join it. There's a join down there, you can't notice it. Once I polish it, you won't even see it there. And on the bottom there's another join which you can't even see. So that's it along there. So it's pretty good. So I usually put the joins, if you're going to do the joins, add them to the back or the front, or if you're going to be, if money's no object, just buy another sheet. But the way I see it is another £25 saving, which is quite a lot of money overall. Right, okay, so that's that. And now all we've got to do is I'll just carry on sanding that up a bit more, and then I'll be back and we'll start the polishing. Right, so they're both veneered up now, and I've wiped them all down, and we're going to start now doing some polishing on them. So this is the polish that I'm using. Again, as you see, you can get this from a company called Morels. You can also buy this off of eBay. This is a professional French polish, which, as I said, is resin based French polish, which is a lot harder wearing than your average button polish or garnet polish. So all I do is I get a plastic tub, pour some of it in there, and these are only the preliminary coats, so we've got to build up a few preliminary coats before we can then leave them to dry, and then flat them back with some 1000 grit, and then we'll do all the top coats. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the grain coming out on this now. As you can see, you're going to get a very nice grain. Now I may tint this as I go along slightly to make it a tad darker as we go along. Now this is just an open rubber at the moment. So a rubber usually, which you use for French polishing, is a bit of hospital sheet. They're old hospital sheets cut up into a square, and then I wrap it around this, which is a piece of stockinette rag. Now you can also use some skin wadding, which is used for upholstery, so a lot of people use that, but I tend to just use this So obviously we've got to do the underneath as well. And you could spray these. But as I am a professional French polisher of around about 34 years, I'm going to do my usual job. I'll do a lovely finish on these. And I'm going to take loads of time. You will only see parts of this. You won't see all the other amount of coats that I'll be putting on it. See, now you can already see the difference between that one and that one. See, you're going to get a really nice stripy grain on that cherry. So I'll do the same again here. And I'll build up around about 8 coats like this with the open rubber, or some people like to call it an open fad, but I just call it an open rubber. And then what I'll do is I'll leave it to dry for a day, then I'll come back, denib it down to smooth it all out, then I'll start doing the top coats with a proper rubber, not an open rubber. And then I'll be thinning the polish down as well, so it goes on extremely fine. So at the moment this is just neat polish. This hasn't been watered down at all. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to put loads of polish on there to get that real neat deep sheen on it. Now what I'll be doing afterwards is I'll be wire wooling and waxing these back so they come up like a satin look, because I'm not after a high gloss finish on these. I just want a satin look, to a nice silky satin look, satin finish I should say. Now we want to just really just add a little bit around the edge there, just to seal the edge of the veneer in as well, because we are going to be doing our baffles. Not in this video. I'll do another video on the baffles, and we need to, with the baffles, we've got to cut the baffle out with the size of the driver, which I've downloaded the sizes of the drivers that I'm going to be using, and then we're going to be covering that in that nice leather to give it a really luxurious look to it. I'm a stickler for making things look very professional. And I'm going to be making some Tweaker Man badges to go on here, and at the back of it it's going to have a proper sticker with Tweaker Man and all the impedance and the sensitivity and everything about the speakers. So there we go. I'm going to just start cracking on and getting some more coats on these. So then I'll be back once I've coated them all up, and then you'll be able to see it after around about 8 coats on them. So these have had 8 coats on here now. You can see the grain now, nice stripy cherry grain. So what's going to happen now, these are going to be left overnight to dry. Well, they'll be left for another day actually, because I won't be around to do the flattening back or the polishing of these until the weekend. So they're going to be left to dry, and we'll get the video for it finished on Saturday. There you go, look, lovely job. They look really nice. They're going to look very, very professional, like they've been purchased. But then that's what I do as a job anyway, furniture. So if I can't make it look like it's been purchased, I might as well give up. Anyway, so we'll be back soon. So these have now had a day and a half to dry. So what we're going to be doing is to flatten back. I've already denibbed it, this one all back, and going to be denibbing this back, and then we're going to be giving them another load of coats. Probably another 8 coats with an open fad, which is just an open rubber. And then we're going to flatten them back again, and then we're going to give them the final top coats. So what we're going to use here is some 240 at the moment, because we want to really flat the first load of coats back. So all we do is we just get it onto the surface there, and what we call this is flouring up. So when you're flattening back, still getting loads of dust off the surface, you see it? So that's what we call flouring up when we're flattening back. So you need to make sure you get it very smooth. So this one here, I've got extremely smooth. So what I'm going to do now is crack on with these, and then I'll be back shortly once we've flattened the whole lot back. So I've finished flattening them all back now. They're very smooth. I wiped them all down, so they're nice and clean. So now what we're going to be doing is giving them some more heat resistant special powder polish. But with this time we're going to mix a bit of mist in it to water it down a bit. And then we're going to give them another 8 coats. And then once we've done that, we're going to then leave them again to dry thoroughly. And then we're going to then start doing the finishing on them, the finishing coats, before we wire, wool and wax them. Yes, this is a long process, but it gives you a very nice finish. That's it. Add a little bit of mist just to give it a bit of, to water it down a little bit. It just helps flow the polish on the surface. It's not so thick and gloopy. So whether that's the right word, I do not know, but that's what I'm using today. Right, so it's the same process again. We just dip our rubber, our open fad, into here. We're going to do the backs first. So the underneath, we have to do a bit later. So I did that the other day. I had to do the underneath off camera. So we're just going to up and down strokes again. Because what we want to do is we want to have a finish where you can, although I'm not after a really glossy finish as such, I'm after more of a satin look, but you want the grain, you want to be able to look into the grain and see all the different hints and tones coming out, which will make them look stunning. Move round to there. We want to go onto the edge there as well, because we want to make sure everything's nice and smooth. And I've got a nice little bit of grain there on the surface there. You can see that nice bit of grain that I picked out on the veneer when I put it on there, and some other little bits. There's not a great deal of that sort of figuring in cherry, but I've managed to find a couple of bits on that piece of veneer that I had. So again, we just go straight down and up, and then we've got a couple of bits here as well, like that looks like a little knot. Now I could have used some very exotic veneers on these, but because I'm trying to keep it in with the colour scheme of the rest of my rack and that I've built, I just thought it would look nice if it all sort of matched. That's the beauty of building stuff yourself, you see. When you do your own stuff, you can do what you like, opposed to buying stuff already made and then not being able to match the colours and that. Let's move round to here. So this sort of dries pretty quick. It's like 2 minutes and then I'll be coating it again. And when we come to the top coats, they'll be watered down quite a lot, about 50-50 with meths and polish, and that will go on even smoother. So I'm going to crack on with that and I'll be back shortly. So here we have another 8 coats. So altogether these have had 16 coats, although the first 8 coats were flatted back quite a lot, denibbed back, to give you a very nice smooth finish on there, so you can sort of see the sort of sheen that's coming on there. Obviously, as I say, we're going to be giving it a wire wool and waxed effect after, so it takes it into a satin sort of shine. So now I've got to leave those now to dry now for another sort of 4 to 6 hours now before I can flat them back again, and I'm going to get these finished today, and then we'll be waxing them tomorrow while wooling and waxing them, and then we'll be and that'll be the end of this video for this part 2 version of these speaker builds. And then the next video we'll be doing the front baffle. So and then hopefully we'll be getting our drive units and everything through, crossovers and everything else in the next week or so. So okay, I'll be back soon to do the rest of it. So these were left for around about 8 hours, and I've flattened them back again with some P1000. Okay, and now what we're going to be doing, so these have had effectively 16 coats already, so what we're going to be doing now is giving them a nice fine polish now. So I shall put the phone on the camera on the tripod, and we'll show you what I'm going to do now. So I've flatted them back now, so these have had 16 coats on them, and I've flatted them back with P100. I've mixed up a 50-50 polish now, 50% meths and 50% polish, and I've added a very tiny bit of plum mahogany stain to them because I want to give them a very slight tint. So this is what we call polishing rubber. It's a bit of old hospital sheet, cotton sheet with a piece of stockinette folded into a very smooth pad. Okay, so we can turn that round actually to that side now, and all I do is everybody has their own method of doing French polishing. Now I've been doing it now for over 35 years, so it's a long time, and I've just got my own method of doing it. So we're just going to go to the back here now, and all we do is we gently go up and down now. Now what this is doing is this is basically smoothing the surface down, as well as giving it a very fine coat of polish. So we're going to leave the underneath for now, and I'll do the underneath later. There we go. So because this is very fine, what it's doing is it's dissolving a bit of the top surface of the other layers of polish that I put on there, because it's even though I flattened it back, it's designed to make it even smoother as you build up coats like this. So this is I'm going to work on these now for probably an hour and a half and build up quite a few layers. I'll show you how to do this one again. And this will really make the grain look deep, like you can look into it, and it looks like there's a millimetre or so, or a couple of mil deep, even though it isn't. It's just the way it appears to look. So the problem I found with a lot of speaker building videos is the people that make them, they do obviously a nice job, and they obviously sound wicked, but one thing they don't know how to do is the finishing touches like this. They don't know how to make them look like they've been purchased, opposed to home build. Some of them are painting the outsides and they don't look great to me, look very amateur. And the idea is to get like a purchased look to them, as though they've been bought. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to carry on with those, and I'll get them built up, and then I'll come back to you to show you the finished article. So we've finished the polishing on this. You can see the deep shine that's coming on there. So what we'll be doing is we're going to leave this overnight, be about 14 hours, and then we're going to wire wool and wax it in the morning to give it a very nice satin sheen to it, because it's a bit too glossy at the moment, and I don't really want to leave it that glossy. I want to give it a really nice, you can see the reflections in there, it's so shiny. So this will be a super smooth, silky finish. You'll be able to, it be as soft as a finish on a Ferrari, a well polished Ferrari. Instead that will be glossy, this will be satin, but when you run your hand along it, it will feel super smooth. So I'll be back tomorrow now again, and if you noticed, they've tinted a little bit more now. I've just given that slight tint just to bring out the grain even more. So I'll be back tomorrow and we'll finish this part of the speaker build. So I'm back Sunday morning. So I've already flattered this one back. You can see the sheen has gone from it. I'm not sure if you can pick that up on the camera that much compared to this one, which is still extremely glossy. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So this is what we use: Libron 4 noughts steel wool ultra fine. So we'll start on the side here. So we just tear a bit of the wire wool off, and what I like to do is just to go along the edges first, across the grain, just to make sure that I get all the, and if there's any bits of stuff that's stuck in, because when you do hand polishing you can get bits of dust and that, because you're not doing it in a spray booth or anything. So if you were spraying you'd have to do it in a spray booth ultimately. You can do it outside. It's best not to do it on a hot day because you'll get loads of flies and all that sticking in there. But anyway, so we're just going to go around the edges first, and all this is doing is taking a very fine cutting off the surface. You're cutting the surface back. Still hot today. Right, so as you can see, we've been around the edges there. You've still got the centre that's glossy. So now all we do is just tap out our wire wool, and then we want to just start going over. And what we're doing is we're going over the top of the outer line that I did across the grain, so it smooths it back in again. I'll show you. It's very difficult to see on the camera here. So you can see I've gone back over that now. See the glossy bit there? I've gone over the edges, and that same again here. And what this does is it really smooths out the finish and makes it silky smooth to touch. You can just run your hand. Once the wax goes on there, you'll be able to just run your hand across it, and it'll just, you could just, you get what I mean anyway. It's difficult to explain it, but it's extremely smooth. Now, as I say, this is a very long-winded process, this way of polishing. This is what they did in the old days, and I still do a hell of a lot of it. I do quite a bit of antique work and that, and you can do this with water-based lacquer as well, and you can get a really nice finish with that as well, which I'll show you what that is, which is this stuff. You can get it in a matte finish and that. I always tend to wire wool this as well at the end, because it just gives it that really nice smooth finish. But you have to water that down exactly the same way as I watered down the French polish, which is a resin based French polish. It's really more, it's what I'd call, well, it's heat resistant and it's extremely tough, because a traditional polish like button polish or garnet polish isn't really tough enough really to that's what the original people would have done back in the day when it was originally started. Right, there we go. So that's the that's it, that whole piece there. Nice and flatted back. It will still have a sheen to this. It ain't going to be matte at all. It isn't going to be matte. It's just going to be. It will have a sheen to it, but it will take that sort of almost sticky feel away from it. So now I'm going to crack on and do the rest of it, and I'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to do the waxing side of it. So finished all the flattening back now. So what we need now is some stockinette rag. Cotton stockinette rag. Put that to one side now for a minute. And now we need some wax. So we've got a light coloured wax there. We need to just put that one over there for the minute. Bring that forward a bit. I'm going to do it on the side to start with so I can show you that. So we just get our wax and we just give it a good buffing up. Make sure you get it all nice and there we go. And then we take our buffing cloth and give it a vigorous buffing. Turn the cloth around to a cleaner bit. And that's the final finish. It's a satin look. It's not as shiny as it was before. It probably looks that way on the camera, but believe me, it's more of a satin look when you get it onto the side. It's not so sticky looking. So so if I was doing a high gloss finish, I would never have left them like that anyway. What I would do is flat them back with some in fact, what I would have done was exactly what I done while I wore them and that. Then I would have finished them off with some burnishing cream or rubbing compound that you would use on a car body, and that would have given a more glossier finish, similar to what I've done on the turntable, although that had a hell of a lot more coats than this. But yeah, I'll carry on and wax these and then I'll show you the finished article. So here we have the finished article. As you can see, it's got a sheen to it, but it's not a high gloss sheen, it's a satin sheen. Yeah, really nice. These have come up lovely, these cabinets. So I'll be doing the front baffle in another video. I thought I'd spread these over a few videos because it's the videos are very long-winded otherwise, and you'll all get bored. I'm sure you don't watch all of these, you just skirt to the end anyway, which I do on some videos as well. So yeah, you can see they're nice. See, you can see from the side it's a satin look now. It's not a high gloss finish. So I think that's it for this this part 2 of the mini monitor speaker build. I'm hopefully going to be getting the drivers and the tweeters and all that towards the end of this coming week, but I'll have to see how it goes and that. So all I've got to say now is thanks for watching another Tweaker Man video. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give this video a like. Don't forget to press that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. And thank you for watching, guys.